The sound of splintering wood still echoes in my head the moment my phone buzzed inside the Richmond Federal Courthouse, and I saw my security feed go live. There she was, Veronica Miles, the HOA president, kicking in the door of my Silver Lake cabin while I sat across from a federal judge presenting evidence of her corruption. The look on Judge Harper's face when the feed showed Veronica stepping inside, planting something under my desk. That was the moment everything I'd endured finally came full circle. She had no idea she was being watched by the FBI or that her little reign of terror was seconds from imploding. My name is Nathan Brooks. I'm 48, a retired telecom engineer and a veteran. I bought that cabin to honor my grandfather who built it back in 1965 with his bare hands. Cedar walls, stone fireplace, a dock that stretched into clear Virginia water. It was supposed to be our quiet place. My wife Clara called it her dream home, and our daughter Sophie spent hours sketching sunsets from the loft window. For a while, life at Silver Lake felt peaceful, until I met Veronica. She was 50 sharp suits, sharper eyes. 7 years as HOA president had turned her into some self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac. The first day we met, she handed me a leather-bound rule book that looked like a Bible for control freaks. "Welcome to Silver Lake," she said with that fake smile people wear when they're already judging you. I should have known then this wasn't a welcome. It was a warning. 3 weeks later, I got a notice taped to my mailbox. $1,800 fine for unauthorized dock modification. That dock had been standing since before Veronica ever graduated high school, long before the HOA even existed. I had permits, old surveys, photos of my dad fishing there in the 70s. I brought them all to the next HOA meeting, 12 residents in a room that smelled like burnt coffee and cheap linoleum. I laid everything out calm, factual, but Veronica just smiled. Grandfathered structures, she said, still need compliance fees. $600 a month. $600 every month. To use a dock that legally existed before the HOA did. I remember the silence that followed, the way neighbors looked away instead of meeting my eyes. That's when Edith, an elderly widow sitting near the back, whispered to me on the way out. "You're not the first." 2 veteran families lost their homes over her fines. That's when I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control and profit. 2 weeks later, Veronica showed up again, this time with a man named Carl Tatum claiming to be a county inspector. He reeked of stale cigars, flashed a badge that looked like it came from a Halloween store, and started pointing at my outlets near the dock. "Electrical hazard," he grunted. Veronica nodded along, jotting notes like a police detective. Then she looked at my grandfather's fire pit, something we'd used every summer for generations, and called it unpermitted. By the end of that day, I was hit with another stack of fines: electrical, fire safety, environmental violations. Nearly $5 grand total, plus monthly monitoring fees. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing my dad's voice. "Always verify credentials." "Nate," so I did. Turns out there was no licensed inspector named Carl Tatum in the state database. But there was a Carl Tatum who worked at HOA Miles Realty, Veronica's own company. I filed a complaint with the state board the next morning. I thought that'd be the end of it. Instead, that's when the real harassment began. Parking signs appeared overnight, blocking my driveway. Anonymous letters stuffed in my mailbox, troublemaker. Someone spray-painted "Military Don't Belong Here" in red across my fence. My wife started flinching every time she heard a car door slam outside. Sophie begged to move. And me, I started doubting myself. Maybe I was the one pushing too hard. Maybe I should just pay the damn fines and keep my family safe. Every time I looked at Clara's tired eyes, I felt smaller, helpless. Then one night, while reviewing footage from the cameras I'd installed, I saw them. Veronica and Carl, flashlights cutting through the dark, measuring my dock at 10 p.m., whispering to each other. I turned up the audio feed. Veronica's voice came through cold as ice. "Brooks will crack like the others. Military types always sell cheap under pressure." That's when something in me snapped. I started digging. Court records, meeting minutes, property transfers. And a pattern emerged: veteran families fined, foreclosed, and their homes flipped through. Miles Realty, for double the price. This wasn't just harassment, it was organized discrimination. A week later, a letter arrived from some law firm called Brighton and Cole, demanding $8,500 in unpaid fines or they'd place a lien on my property. Their website looked like it hadn't been updated since 1999. At that point, I drove straight to the Henrico County Courthouse and pulled every public record I could find. There it was. Veronica's rule amendments never received the 75% homeowner vote required by law. She'd built her empire on forged paperwork. When I showed this to a few neighbors, most of them turned away. Fear. Pure fear. But Edith didn't. Over coffee one evening, she told me her late husband Henry, also a veteran, had been fined for having a flagpole. He died of a stroke not long after. She drove him to it, Edith whispered. Her hands shook as she passed me a faded envelope. Inside was a note. Call this number. She'll help. That number led me to Judge Eleanor Harper, Henry's daughter-in-law. She'd spent 2 years tracking discriminatory HOAs across 3 states. Your case, she told me, might be the key that blows this open. For the first time, I wasn't alone. Then came the breaking point. Veronica called an emergency HOA meeting at 1 p.m. on a Thursday when most residents were at work. The agenda voting to foreclose my cabin for endangering community welfare. When I walked in, she already had a slideshow up titled Protecting Silver Lake. My face in uniform from a school event labeled as military training asset, potential threat. My hands were shaking with anger, but I kept my phone recording. During a break, I caught her whispering to Carl, "Once we clear Brooks and the Ramirez family, we'll market this place as an elite community. No more PTSD riffraff." The vote passed 9-4. Rigged. My ballot ignored. Abstentions counted as yes. I drove home that night ready to give up. Clara cried, said she just wanted peace. I told her I'd sell. I actually said it out loud. "Maybe we'll find somewhere else," I muttered. The words tasted like defeat. But then, as I was closing the blinds, I saw the old photograph on our mantel. My grandfather standing on that same dock in his army jacket smiling. That cabin wasn't just property, it was legacy. And Veronica wasn't taking it from me. The next morning I called Judge Harper. "I'm in," I told her. The operation had a name, Lake Purge. The FBI, IRS, and Department of Justice were already building a federal case against Veronica and her network of HOAs. They needed one thing: evidence from the inside. So I agreed to wear a wire. Hidden mics in my cabin cameras disguised as birdhouses and utility boxes. Even motion sensors under the dock. My little slice of paradise became a federal sting site. I played the part of the defeated veteran. Told neighbors I was leaving for Richmond to seek legal advice. Meanwhile, federal agents parked vans in the woods ready. Saturday morning, I sat beside Judge Harper in her chambers, surrounded by law books and monitors streaming the live feeds from my property. At 11:52 a.m., Veronica's black SUV rolled into frame. Right behind it, Carl's rusty pickup. They didn't even hesitate. Carl picked the lock while Veronica stood lookout. They stepped inside like they owned the place. My stomach twisted as I watched her open my desk drawer, pull out a small bag, and whisper, "Plant the flyers here. And the pills. Make sure they're visible." Carl muttered something about overkill. She smirked. "It's necessary. This gets Brooks out. Then the Ramirez family will follow. Military doesn't fit here." Judge Harper's eyes met mine. "That's enough." Within seconds, agents surrounded the property. The feed showed red and blue lights flooding the cabin windows. FBI step away from the desk. Veronica froze. Carl dropped the fake evidence. The screen split, 2 agents cuffing them both as the judge whispered, "Poetic justice." I don't remember breathing for a full minute. Years of tension released in one exhale. Later I learned the scope of what we uncovered. Veronica's phone held messages from 38 HOA presidents across 5 states discussing target lists of veteran families, over 180 victims, more than $2.7 million in laundered profits. Carl flipped on her within days, handing over documents from Miles Realty, proof of illegal foreclosures, and fake compliance fees. The federal indictment listed 50 counts racketeering, civil rights violations, mail fraud. When Veronica appeared in court wearing an orange jumpsuit, I felt, not joy exactly, just a quiet, exhausted kind of justice. People asked me later if it was worth it, losing sleep, risking my family's safety, spending months gathering evidence. Some said I should have just settled quietly, avoided the chaos. Maybe they're right. Maybe peace would have been easier. But peace built on fear isn't peace at all. Veronica got 20 years. Carl got 5. The Silver Lake Act passed soon after, forcing transparency in every HOA board across the state. My family stayed. Clara finally slept through the night. Sophie drew the lake again without fear in the colors. I still walk that old dock sometimes, the boards creaking under my boots. I look out at the water and think about how close I came to giving up, to letting someone else's corruption define my life. And I always come back to one thought. When someone abuses power, silence is their favorite weapon. And the only way to beat them is to speak louder.